Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lion's Heart. And in this video, I'm going to be speaking about how discipline actually equals freedom in life. So we can kind of see ourselves as having two opposing at war with each other desires and sides, right? We have our higher self, which everyone pretty much knows what that side wants, what that part of us wants, which is, peace, abundance, happiness, freedom, joy, to feel healthy, to feel vital, to feel good, right? Overall, it's just to feel good, to have good habits, and to be disciplined enough to have those habits, right? And then we have we could call it lower self. And it's not that it's bad, but it's just desires that are more, we could say, short term, right? The higher self is really going for more long term gratification, long term desires. And the lower self is kind of going for more the short term pleasures, right? And that's things like, wanting that ice cream, or wanting to look at adult content online, or, wanting to have that beer, or, sleep in super late, or play video games, these things that we all know, right? And the lower self is actually somewhat at odds with the higher self. Like, the lower self does not want to go on that jog, that 5 mile jog, right? The lower self does not want to meditate. The lower self does not want to eat the broccoli, right? So we have these two sides, right? And the higher self is going for long-term gratification. Lower self is going for short-term gratification. And for the most part, we all kind of know what these are and what we would like to be implementing and what we would like to, be bringing into our lives through our habits. For everybody, it's a little different, but, for the most part, it's like, I would like to be healthier. I would like to run more. I would like to have a better body. I would like to push myself socially. I would like to have better relationships and dating, be more attractive, meditate, read, these kinds of things, right? And I would like to cut out the scrolling. And I know that, doing X is bad for me, but I can't stop, and et cetera, right? So what actually differentiates the people in life who end up, doing the more powerful things and end up creating a more powerful life, versus the people who kind of fall into those lower habits and kind of get stuck in them? And there's only one thing that does this, and it's discipline. Discipline is the golden key to all self-improvement and all empowerment in life, and also freedom in life, right? Discipline is the key. Discipline is the golden key. It is not any magic pill. It is not how efficiently even you do things. Although that's important, it is important how efficiently you do things, but really what separates the masters and the people who become free in life from the people who kind of remain in those cycles is discipline. And it is so important. And really, discipline is like a muscle, and we have to learn how to work that muscle and become in charge of our habits and become in charge of our life in that way. And really, discipline, it creates freedom on almost all levels. If you are disciplined with your meditation habits, and you're disciplined with your reading habits, and you're disciplined with your exercise and all that, you will have freedom of health. You will have freedom of finances, because you're not really spending money on, silly, trivial things. You will have freedom in your mind, which is the most important thing. And then you'll be so grounded and centered in yourself that you'll have freedom in relationships, right? You won't be codependent, because you'll be feeling so, good and strong and powerful in yourself that you don't really need anything from other people. So in that way, you're also free from toxic relationships or codependent or needy relationships. And from there, you can create, powerful and relationships that you genuinely just want to be in, right? There's no neediness. There's no kind of like trading trade-offs and, I provide this, you provide that. It's just like, I genuinely like being with this person. Let's create something powerful, right? And I was even thinking about finances. Like, if you're disciplined, you really can just be free in life. Like, you can get, most even part-time jobs in the West, at least, like most part-time jobs will provide you enough money to have a roof over your head, to have food, good food that you can cook, you can get groceries. And if you're just not spending money on, alcohol and, drugs and going out and, just materialism, like all of these are really kind of just addictions. If you're disciplined enough to not, spend money on these things, then you can just read and meditate and go to the parks. Parks are free. And I've just been thinking about this. I'm just like, if you're disciplined enough, you can escape wage slavery, and you just don't have to live this like grinding, 9-to-5 kind of life. You can live a pretty chill life, right? And that's not for everybody. Some people have a certain standard of what they want and the amount of money they want and the kind of trips they want to go on and all that. And that's fine. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that, for most people, you can become free like that, right? You really can. So I want to share a story about an actual slave who, from the ancient Greek times, his name was Epictetus, and he was a slave to the royals and the masters and the kind of rich, noble crowd in ancient Greece, right? And what he noticed and what he saw, he was kind of a philosopher. Like, he had a very virtuous life. Although he was a slave, it wasn't like a very, horrible kind of slavery. It was more like, cleaning around the place and picking up after them and these kind of things. He was still, he was kind of like a royal slave, right? He was a slave to the rich and the wealthy and the elite class. So it wasn't like a plantation or something like that. So he still was, he was a little educated. He was a bit of a philosopher, and he had a virtuous life. Like, he was disciplined. He really realized that he could not, and it wasn't wise to get upset about things that he couldn't control. So he kind of just surrendered that, and he just lived as best as he could to his principles and his values, and, surrendered what he couldn't control. He didn't get, too reactive or caught up in life. He didn't go into like victim stories and things like that. He just kind of was living his life, did his best as he could as a slave. And towards the end of his life, he realized he was actually more free than the, elite class. Because why is that? It's because the elite class was his rulers, his masters. They were going from addiction to addiction. They were reactive. They were getting lost in their desires. They were, lost in money and power and sex and all these things. And he realized he was at more peace than them. He realized he was actually freer internally than they were, even though they had all the money and the power and the freedom, right? So it's just such a powerful lesson that freedom does not exist outside of us. Freedom does not exist in the things we acquire or the people that we're around or these things. The freedom is internal, right? And that takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of discipline to become internally free. You have to have discipline over your emotions. You have to have discipline over your reactions. You have to have discipline over your desires, right? But it is from this discipline that we create true freedom. And obviously, being physically free, we could split it into two types of freedom, right? There's like physical freedom, where you literally aren't tied up in chains and you're free from, major responsibilities, and you're free from, having some crazy demanding job, or you're free from like certain relationships, toxic, or people that need things from you. And that's important. I think that's equally, let's not deny that. That's very important. It's important to be free financially, physically, responsibly, like not have a bunch of crazy, texts all day and people needing things from you. Like, that is to me, that's a very important pillar of freedom. And for me, one thing I try to do is I try to diminish as much as possible, people needing things from me, or schedules or events, or, just like how much can I shed my life down to nothingness and emptiness so that I can spend most of my day just being, just walking in parks and being, and not being addicted to my phone, right? Which brings us to the next level of freedom, which would be more of like an internal freedom. And that is freedom from your addictions, freedom from bad habits, the emotional freedom. So like someone cuts you off in traffic and you're not getting lost in the anger, because if the anger comes up and it takes you, you're not actually free from it. You're a slave to that reaction. You're a slave to that anger, right? And so true freedom is becoming free in both. Lion's Heart, we're very much about integrating everything. We're very much about holism, being holistic. And so we want both levels of freedom. We want freedom in our physical life, in our body, in our finances, in our way of being, in our time. Time freedom is very important. There's rich people who are billionaires and they don't have 10 minutes to themselves to just sit and be. And to me, that's actually more poor than the man who can, sit and meditate for an hour in the morning, right? Or go for a long walk in the park and not need to feel like he's not doing enough or he's wasting time, right? So both of these freedoms are very important. We want both. And then we want that internal freedom. And that takes honestly a lot more discipline and work. But it's so worth it to just be, free from reactions and desires and these things, right? And these negative habits and all of that, right? So I leave you with this, and it's just motivation and inspiration to become disciplined, right? And I notice for myself, when I'm disciplined, when I'm doing the things I need to do, everything else is so easy because I know I have to wake up and meditate for an hour. I know I have to work on Lion's Heart for 2 hours. I know I have to go to the gym. I know I have to read. And I just do those things. And by the time the day is over, it's like I've accomplished so much. And I feel so, satisfied in that, versus having like this decision fatigue of like waking up. It's like, okay, how am I feeling? I don't feel like meditating. Maybe yoga. No, maybe I'll scroll on my phone, maybe give myself a rest day. It's like, no, I just do what I have set to do. And it's like, I can surrender into that structure, right? So it's like the discipline creates the structure, and then you can still surrender and flow with life inside of that structure. And it's just like, it's all set and done. And I can just live my life through the pillars and the structure that I've set. And these things will build me, right? It's like, I want to be intelligent. I want to be wise. I want to be healthy. I want to have good energy. So what am I doing? I'm working out. I'm reading. I'm going to the gym. I want good relationships. So I'm meeting people. I'm pushing myself socially. And I don't want to feel anxious and paranoid and tired and depleted. So what am I doing? I'm cutting out corn. I'm cutting out scrolling. I'm cutting out caffeine. I'm cutting out alcohol. And recently there's just been this background of being, this background of stillness, and just this piece of just being and not needing to fill my time with things, not needing to jump to the next thing. And it's truly in this discipline where the real freedom is. And, it's just, that's where the freedom is in that surrender to your structure. So it's like the masculine and the feminine. The masculine is like you build that structure, and then the feminine is you surrender and release into it. And in there is so much joy. So there it is, guys. Discipline is the key. Discipline is the golden key. And this is what Stoics and masters and yogis and saints have more or less, directly or indirectly, been saying for millennia. So bring that into your life. Bring more discipline into your life. There's different ways to do it, but the ultimate way to do it is to just build that muscle and to just do the right action and not do the wrong action, and just be disciplined with yourself, hold yourself to a high standard, and, really just be somewhat relentless in that, right? It can be a violent process to become more disciplined, and we really have to have a no-nonsense attitude. And as you do that more and more, the muscle will build. Be kind to yourself, be flexible, but also build that muscle, and you will see how powerful it is in life. And the last thing I'm going to leave with is just an example of this freedom. There's so many examples of, billionaires and guys, men who you think would have it, they would have it all, right? Dan Bilzerian, Howard Hughes, like these kinds of billionaires, King George, and you get quotes from them and they're just miserable, right? They say things, they're addicted to things, like the people around them say that they were just like addicted to dopamine and drugs and sex. And then you see guys who have nothing, like Ramana Maharshi or Buddha or, Christ, like these kind of guys, and they're just so whole and they're so full. They're so full of life and vitality and love, and they're just beaming. And, Ramana Maharshi had a stick and a cloth to his name, right? So it says a lot about what freedom and happiness truly are. And I think in today's society and world, we need to redefine that, because the current definition is just false. So with that, much love, guys. Hope you have a great week. Talk soon. Cheers.